So my wife gave me an ultimatum last week. She said, when we go on this road trip, you're bringing 1 bag of games. I said, I have 4 bags. Why not bring all 4? So we talked about it a little bit, and finally we compromised, and I was allowed to bring 1 bag of games. And that's what you're looking at right here. We are on a road trip right now, and this is my bag of summer road trip games. I apologize for the lower quality sound and video here. I just thought this would be a fun little episode to make where I share all the games I brought on our summer road trip. Before we start, I want you to play along at home and guess how many games are in this bag. So just type your answer in the comments below right now and lock that in. Obviously, you could look ahead and cheat, but I trust you're not going to do that because this is just for fun. So see if you can guess how many games are in this bag. When I was putting this bag together, I was thinking of summer-themed games with like boats and pirates and beaches and islands. Also, games that are very portable and come in smaller boxes. Games that are easy to set up and tear down. And then I'm going to go through these one at a time. I'll be like Mary Poppins here and just pull games out of the bag, and I'll just talk about them individually as I pull them out. Before we get started, make sure you're subscribed right here on YouTube at undiscovered_games to learn more about lesser known board games. This episode was made possible by the channel members. Thank you to all the UGOGs who support this channel directly to help keep it alive. If you want to learn about all the membership perks, look in the video description below or look for the join button somewhere below the video. So let's get right into the road trip game bag. First up, we have Sail to India. This is like a Euro micro game with just some cards and cubes. It has some engine building, action selection, but it's all about managing your multi-use cubes. You have this limited supply of resource cubes, and your cubes are used for everything in the game. They can be ships, goods, buildings, technology. So your points and your money are tracked here. And what's interesting is as you build up points, once you get beyond 5 points, you have to take another cube from here and keep tracking them. So now you have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then if you need 11 points, you need another cube available. So if you don't have a cube available, you're going to miss out on some points. And the money track works the same way. So as the game builds and you earn more money and points, you're fighting this shrinking supply of limited cubes, and it's really challenging. So on your turn, you're going to get 2 actions, and you can do the same action twice, but real quick, I'll go over your choices. So you could simply pay a coin and take one of your cubes from your supply and add it to Lisboa. Lisboa is like a holding area, so you cannot do anything with cubes that are in your supply. You have to pay first to get them into Lisboa, and then from there, you can assign them to the various other areas. Another action you can do is increasing your ship speed. So you can just pay 2 money, 1, 2, and whenever your cubes come off, they just go up here to Lisboa. And now you can increase your ship speed from 1 to 2. This just shows how many spaces your ship is allowed to move for 1 action. So later you could pay another 4 money to increase it to 3. So another action is moving your ship. Cubes become ships when they go below the cards and they sort of follow the water spaces here. So for 1 action, I could just take this and go 1, or if my ship speed is 2, I can actually go 1, 2, and that would be 1 action. That is now a ship. As soon as you are done moving a ship, you can decide if you want to assign it to one of these circular spaces here and make that ship a good. So after I move, I could take this cube and assign it to the sugar. Now that cube is sugar. It's no longer a ship. This cannot come back down and become a ship again. So once you commit it to a goods space, it stays there, and then nobody else can go there once your cube is there. Another action is selling these resources, and this is how you earn more money and more points. So let's say I had some cubes already built up here from previous turns. I can sell as many of these as I want back to Lisboa. I get paid money and points depending on how many different types of goods that I sell. So if I just sold these, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4 different types of goods. Those go back there. And then I just look at this chart. I sold 4 types of goods, so I get 4 money and 1 point. Again, my money would be tracked here. So I take a cube from Lisboa and go 1, 2, 3, 4 money, and I would get 1 more victory point like that. Another action you can take is building one of these buildings. So you already have to have your boat below the building, and then on your turn, you can claim one of these buildings. You have to pay $2, so you go back 1, 2, and then you just place your cube there. Nobody else can build that building. There are 3 types of buildings. We have churches, strongholds, and markets. So each building will give you victory points. However, the churches give you an extra victory point. So churches are just worth more points, but they don't give you any special ability. The strongholds, on the other hand, when you do a boat movement, you could either start them at Lisboa, or you could start them at the stronghold and move them from there. So those open up your ability to reach these farther cards. By the way, anytime you move a boat onto one of these cards, it gets flipped, and then you immediately get 1 point for revealing that card. And the game ends as soon as somebody reveals that final card way down there. If you build the marketplace, now you have a permanent coffee bean when you go to sell goods. So if you had that building built and then you had cubes there, if you want to sell goods, these 2 go back, but you also sold a coffee bean and that stays there. So it's like you had 3 different types of goods when you go to this chart for your payout. The last action choice you have is buying a technology. We have 3 technology cubes. You take one of these and you pay the cost showing on one of these available technologies. These are just special abilities that only you can do. And you just claim that. You have to pay the cost when you claim it. And for the rest of the game, nobody else can choose that technology. Again, you're limited to these 3. So Sail to India, this game is awesome, especially for how small it is. This game has been in my collection since 2014. It was one of the earliest games we ever bought, and it has stood the test of time. It really feels like that bigger Euro game experience stripped down into this tiny package. Very clean, elegant design. Everything just makes sense. It's a very intuitive type of a game, and it plays at a quick pace. Definitely check this one out. I highly recommend. All right, game number 2 is this card game. I cheated a little bit on this one because, I took it out of the box to save some space. It's called Port Royal. Now, I'm not going to spend much time on this because this is very well known. I'm trying to focus more on the lesser known games in this bag. It's a modern classic card game for a reason, and just a very portable game, very versatile game that you could teach to just about anybody in like 5 minutes. It's a really exciting game. Let's see what else is in the game bag. Let's look at this guy here. This is called Tortuga 1667. The reason I brought this one on the road trip is because we're meeting up with some friends later in the week for a wedding, and this is a great game to play with a group of friends. It plays up to 9 players. You play on teams, but you do not know who your teammates are. So part of the game is trying to figure out who you can trust, who's working with you. And the other part of the game is trying to actually strategize to win. Now, it's a very chaotic type of a game, but it definitely has the fun factor. And I really like this game at odd player count. So like 5, 7, or 9 players. Because when you play with an even number of players, there are only 2 teams. When you play with an odd number, there are 3 teams, and that makes it a lot harder to figure out who is on your team, and that makes the game more fun. I love the way this is packaged in like an old book here. It's sort of a pirate-themed game, which goes along with the summer themes that I'm going for in this summer road trip episode. We have a neoprene matte board here. Great aesthetics. I love the way this looks. Some wooden player pieces here, and some little wooden treasure chests, which are really cool. And then we have our cards. Some great artwork here on the cards. At the beginning of the game, each player is going to be dealt a loyalty card, and this is going to be kept secret. This will determine what team you're on. You're either going to be British or French, but if you play with an odd number of players, You might also be Dutch. After everyone has their loyalty, then you'll set up the board something like this. You randomly assign the player pieces to the spots of each ship. Whoever is first in line is considered the captain, the second in line is the first mate, and whoever is at the back of the line is the cabin boy. That just determines what actions you can take on your turn, but those spots will shift many times throughout the game. Each ship has a space to put the treasure chests. French treasure goes on this side, British treasure goes on this side, same with this ship, and then on the island of Tortuga in the middle, each side has one treasure. But at the end of the game, you just want your team to have more treasure. However, if you're the Dutch team, the Dutch wins if France and Britain are tied when the game ends. So Dutch is trying to make the other two teams tie. So what do you do on your turn? You just have one action. That's it. You go around the table taking one action at a time. And here are your action choices. The first thing you can do is look at any two of these face down cards, read them, and put them right back where you found them. Another option is to reveal one of these cards and do whatever it says. These are good and bad events. So let's say I chose this one. This says, Revealer maroons any other player. When you maroon a player, you send them to the island. So let's say, I'm the blue player and I want to maroon green. Green goes to the island and they take this governor. G is the governor. Whenever somebody leaves the boat, these all shift upward. And now orange is the captain and I am the first mate. So that's how that would work. But anyway, another action is this I cut, you choose thing where, you pick any two cards, choose one other player at the table, and they must choose one of those cards and do whatever it says. So they would reveal it and perform it. Another option is moving your pawn. So if I wanted to move on my turn, this would just be my entire turn, move one space. Then on my next turn, if I wanted to move again, I could go from here to the boat or here to the island and become the governor of the island. And then my next turn, I could move here and make my way slowly to the other boat like that. Or I could just stay put and block this rowboat so nobody else could go onto the rowboat. Lots of ways you can play this. If you are the captain, you can maroon any player on your ship to Tortuga. Another action available to the captain is calling for an attack. An attack is how you get this treasure off of the Spanish galleon and onto your ship. So let's say the green player calls for an attack. All these players take part in this vote. And this is where your voting cards come in. Everybody has 3 of these, and everybody submits a card face down. You also add 1 card from the top of the deck, and then you mix them up and reveal them. For an attack to be successful, you have to have at least 1 torch and 1 cannon. However, anybody who submits a water bucket will cancel out 1 torch. If the attack is successful, then the captain takes a treasure from the Spanish galleon and places it either on the British or the French side of their ship. If this Spanish galleon is already emptied out, then they can steal from the other ship. Now, the first mate has a special action, and they can call for a mutiny. Let's say the orange player calls for a mutiny on their turn. Then orange and blue participate in a vote to overthrow the captain. So the captain does not participate in the vote, but orange and blue put a card in secretly. You also add 1 from the top of the deck, mix them up, and reveal them. If there are more skulls than wheels, then that's a successful mutiny. And if that happens, the captain gets marooned to Tortuga, and then the first mate gets upgraded to the captain like that. The cabin boy has a special action. They can just take 1 treasure chest from one side of their boat and move it to the other like that. So only the purple player could choose that action, or only the blue player could choose that action on that ship. Finally, let's say the board was set up like this. We have some players on the island. The green player, as the governor, can call for a brawl, which is another vote. And this is where we use the middle section of the cards. So any player on the island submits a card face down. We add 1 from the deck, and you mix them up and reveal. Whichever side has more flags, then you shift these treasure chests accordingly. So if the vote looked like this, France has more flags than Britain, so France gets the treasure chest like that. Then if we voted later and it was, more to Britain, then they would both shift like that. If you vote and it's a tie, then they split back up like that. I don't play many games like this because they're so chaotic and out of my control, but I gotta say this is a ton of fun, especially at those higher player counts. If you can get 5 or 7 or even 9 players, play with an odd number of players if you can. That third, Dutch team really spices up the game and just makes it a lot more exciting. I like that the hidden identity here is not the main focus. You're just trying to win the game, and then the fact that you don't know who's who just throws a little roadblock in your plans. Let's keep the list moving. What else is in the game bag here? Let's look at Kahuna. This one I've already covered on the channel, so this will go really quickly. It's a 2-player area control game. Very tense and cutthroat battle. This is still easily like a 9 out of 10 for me. Really solid 2-player game. So again, episode 20 on my YouTube. Learn about Kahuna. Next up, we have Panda Royale. This is a dice drafting game. It's only like 20 to 30 minutes, but it plays up to 10 players. I like this at all player counts. Let me give you a brief overview of this one because this is one of my favorite dice drafting games. So each player starts with a score sheet and 1 yellow die. These score sheets are awesome. They have everything you need to remember how to play the game. So once you learn the rules, this is all you need. It has a reminder of each round at the bottom. The game lasts 10 total rounds. You track your scores across in these boxes. And then at the top, it reminds you how each die scores. Really well done on the score sheets. The dice are super nice and they're beautiful when they're all out on the table. They have all these different colors and shapes and they all score differently. So once you wrap your head around how everything works together, then you'll pretty much understand the game. Now, I won't go over every rule, but I want to give you the basic flow of the game. Step 1, everyone rolls all their dice. So we start with a single yellow die, we roll it, and I got a 6. So we go to round 1, sum of yellow. Now yellow dice, you just add the numbers together, face value. That's very easy. So I put a 6 in this box. We don't have any other dice yet, so you just carry your 6 all the way over here, and that is my round total. Now the lowest score at the table gets the pink pity die. So this player would take that for next round. Now you reach in the bag and draw 1 more die than the number of players. So a 3-player game, we draw 4 random dice like this. So we got a yellow, a blue, a red, and a blue. Now in turn order, you draft 1 die at a time. Turn order is determined by the yellow total. So you look at your yellow total and then you go highest to lowest. This panda token will break ties and this passes around the table and things like that. But basically what's interesting is if you go for yellow dice, that's going to improve your turn order throughout the game, but they don't score you many points. So there's a nice balance there built into the game. So let's say on my turn, I get to draft first because I have the highest yellow. So I might take this blue one. Then this player might decide they want to go for red. Reds are risky. I'll explain those in a minute. And maybe this player wants to improve their odds at turn order, so they take yellow. Then their leftover die just goes back in the bag. And that would be the end of round 1. Then you go to round 2. You start by rolling all your dice, and then you just total them according to the rules here. So every round, you're going to be getting more and more dice to roll, and then you score them based on these. So let me show you how these different dice score. Your purple dice, you add them all together and double it. So this would be 16 points. Blue, you just add them at face value, so that would be 11. However, if you have any glitter blue dice, they look like this, that will double all your blue. So this would be worth 26 points if I had a glitter blue in there, but without that, it's only worth 11. The green dice just get added together, face value, but the green have, these bigger, I think they're D20s. So a lot of opportunity to get bigger scores with green dice. The clear dice are face value, except these let you steal a die from another player. The yellow dice, like I said, get summed together, just face value, but they determine turn order. Pink is face value as well. Now the red is very risky. This is an opportunity to get big points or to lose points. You add all your red dice together. White numbers are positive, black numbers are negative. So a white 6 and a black 2, that would be 6 minus 2 is 4. Then you times that by the number of red dice you have. So 4 times 2 dice is 8 points. However, that could be negative as well. This would be negative 4 times 2, which is negative 8. So the more red dice you get, the more potential you have for a huge score or a big negative if you roll these black numbers. So that's a really fun risk reward to weigh. And that's how all the dice score. So you're just going to be drafting these, trying to decide which ones you want to go for. You have to look around the table and see what other people are collecting. If somebody's loading up on purple, you need to take some clear so you can steal purple from them. And lots of little interactions there. As somebody who loves dice games, I gotta say this is one of my favorites. I absolutely love this system. I think it's a really cool design, just how all the different dice score. And I love that you have to keep an eye on the other players. You cannot let a player load up on, a bunch of blues and then get a glitter to double all their blues. You have to get some clear and steal from them. So it's not just a multiplayer solitaire game. You are always watching what's going on. And then that turn order is so important. You have to try to get first choice because you never know which dice are going to be available. So really cool dice game. Highly recommend Panda Royale. Next is an all-time classic. This is Bonanza. I'm not going to talk about this because this is very popular. It's by the great Uwe Rosenberg. It's a trading game, negotiation, bartering, where you just have cards of beans that you're trying to get planted in your fields. There's all these different bean types, and you have to plant the same types in your field, but you cannot change the order of the cards in your hand. So you're always trying to get cards out of your hand, gift them to other players, and make deals with other players at the table. Really neat timing type of a game with, great player interaction. It plays up to 7 players. It's really fun with a group. I take this on almost every road trip because it's so versatile and it's just a fun time with a group. Highly recommend Bonanza if you've never played. Speaking of all-time classics, here we have another one called No Thanks. I'm not going to spend much time on this either because this is very popular. But if you've never played No Thanks or you don't have this in your collection, I highly recommend having a copy of this. It's one I take on almost every road trip. It plays up to 7 people. It's very quick to learn and teach and quick to play. Basically, you have a deck of cards with numbers. The numbers are points and points are bad. So you flip one card and then everybody has to either take the card or say no thanks by putting a black chip on that card. So you go around the table, everybody's putting a chip on the card to not take it, and then eventually somebody's going to take the card because when you take it, you get all the chips that have built up on the card. And the chips will give you more flexibility to say no thanks later in the game, and the chips cancel out your points because remember, points are bad. You can also go for runs of cards to avoid taking all the points. If you get like a 10, 9, 8, 7, you only score the lowest card in your run. Lots of great decisions here. It's a very tense, player-driven game, and it's a closed economy of these black chips. So it's a fascinating, player-driven system here. Very fun game, very addictive. No thanks. Check that one out for sure. Okay, back into the mystery bag. Let's go back to the summer themes now. This one is the perfect summer road trip game. It's called Seaside, and it's designed to be played on the beach. It comes in this canvas bag, and inside, all the components are these big, giant, chunky wooden discs. That's the whole game is composed of these, and they're beautifully painted on both sides, as you can see there. And these are very satisfying pieces to move around. And like I said, it's designed to be played literally anywhere where, you don't have to worry about these getting damaged or, broken or anything. So really durable pieces. Let me show you quickly how the game plays. It's a really cool little game. So play goes clockwise around the table. You simply pass this bag to the active player. On your turn, you draw one tile out of the bag. You look at both sides, and then you decide which side you want to perform. Every symbol has a different function in the game, which I'll go over in a minute, but that's your whole turn. And then when you're done, you pass the bag clockwise. That player draws a tile and, performs it. So if the tile has a little blue edge here, that means it gets thrown into the ocean, which is the center area between all the players. If it has a white area on the bottom like this, it stays on your seaside. And you're going to be building up a little tableau, which is called your seaside, of different tiles. And you want to have the most tiles on your seaside at the end of the game. The game ends whenever this bag gets empty. So let me show you how these tiles function, and then you'll understand the game. So as you draw out of the bag, you're going to be adding stuff to the middle in the sea. And whenever you get the little arrow symbol, that reminds you draw again. So if I take this and throw it into the sea, I actually draw another tile. And if I do it again, I just keep drawing as long as I get those little arrow symbols. And these just build up in the ocean. Now, certain other tiles will let you take stuff from the ocean. So for example, if you draw a bird, then this gets placed on your seashore, but then you immediately get to take all of the bugs from the ocean. The bird is eating these. So you kind of like stack them on your shore. Now what's interesting is later, if you play another bird, you take all the bugs again, but you can only keep your biggest stack of, birds with bugs. However, if you manage to get the same height, then you get to keep both. A lot of players let those bugs build up and then go in and take a big stack. Again, you're trying to get as many tokens as possible. If you play the beach, that goes on your shore, and you immediately take as many seashells from the middle as you have beaches. So this is my first beach. I get to take one shell like that. If I would have 3 beaches, I could take up to 3 shells if they're out there when I play that beach. If I play a wave, that's going to immediately wash away one of my beaches. And then I choose which beach I want to flip over, and I do whatever is on the back side of the beach. In this case, it's a bird. I would immediately get to take any bugs that are in the ocean. There's none there right now, so that just stays there. We also have rocks. These are habitats for the crab, but they only happen in 2s. So your first turn, you would place a rock and nothing would happen. Then later, when I draw a second rock, that stacks on top, and now I have a habitat for crabs, and I immediately take all the crabs from the ocean and place them like that. And the moment you do that, you also get to steal one crab from another player. So again, you're trying to get lots of tiles lined up here on your beach, because the most tiles at the end of the game wins. There's also a bonus at the end. If you have the most waves on your seashore when the bag runs out, you get to take any leftover tiles from the sea and add them to your stack. And then at the end of the game, whoever has the most, tiles on their shore is the winner. You just compare your stacks like that. Most tiles wins. So very simple game here, but I really like all the interactions that exist between the different tiles. There's some push your luck as you dig into the bag, looking for certain tiles at certain moments. And, it's kind of fun to let that pool of tiles build up in the middle, and you feel that tension building, like somebody's going to grab those. But really neat little game design, very, very simple. But don't be fooled by the simplicity. It's a really pleasant and enjoyable game to play. I would even say a must-have if you go to the beach a lot. It even has a solo mode, so you could just lounge on the beach by yourself and play a little solo game of Seaside. Very cool little casual game, but still has some player interaction there to keep me interested. Check this one out. All right, what else is in the bag? Let's look at Merchants. This is a game from the great Dr. Rainer Knizia. It's the first Knizia game we've come across in the mystery bag here, and it's a commodity speculation type of a game. Very subtle and simple game design with, the nautical boat theme here, which is what I'm going for. So let's take a look at this one. Here is Merchants in a nutshell. Everyone starts the game with 2 ships, and then on those ships, you get to place 1 resource cube. You do a draft at the beginning, going around the table, choosing 1 cube at a time to put on your starting ships. You also have a face-up display of 6 randomly dealt cards from the top of this deck. There are always 6 cards showing in the middle. You also have some special cards that you can invest in for special abilities, and then you have a money supply over here. Each player starts the game with 3 randomly dealt resource cards, and these are kept secret from your opponents. The cards match the cube, so the lumber matches the green, corn matches yellow, etc., etc. Play goes clockwise, and on your turn you have 2 phases. Each phase you get 1 action. In phase 1, here are your options. You can either swap out a goods cube, so you take a cube off of one of your ships and take a new one from the supply. Another option you have in phase 1 is simply investing in one of these special cards. You pay the cost showing at the bottom, pay that to the bank, and take that card into your display. I'll go over what these cards do in just a moment. Another option in phase 1 is simply to pass. So that is your phase 1. Then you move to phase 2, where you either play cards or draw 2 cards off of that deck. The game's going to end when this deck is empty. Player with the most money is the winner. So let me show you how this might work. Let's say I have some money saved up already from previous turns, and in phase 1 on my turn, I would like to buy a special card. So I'm going to pay $10 to the bank and buy an extra ship. As soon as you buy an extra ship, you choose one available goods cube to place on it. Again, each ship can only hold 1 cube. So looking at my cards, I have a yellow. Maybe I take a yellow. Then in phase 2, I can either play cards to trigger scoring or draw 2 more cards. Let's say this round I want to draw 2 cards. And I got another green and another yellow. And that's the end of my turn. The next player goes, and so on around the table. So let's say everybody took their turn, and now it's my turn again. In phase 1, I'm going to swap a cube. So I'm going to exchange this for another green. For step 2, let's say I want to play cards. When you play cards, you have to play all cards of the same color, and they cover up cards on the center display. So looking out at the table, this player has brown, this player has 2 brown, so I'm going to cover up the brown cards that are showing to cut down on their payouts. Meanwhile, I'm going to get paid for green because I have 2 green cubes. So I'm going to play all my green cards like this. That covers up that brown, and that covers up that brown. Now, at this moment, every player holding a green cube gets paid $1 per green card. I have 2 green cubes, so I will get paid 3 times 2, $6 from the bank, and that player over in the corner has 1 green cube. They will get paid $3 from the bank. So every player at the table gets paid. These other colors do not pay right now because I played green cards. And that would be the end of my turn. So you just keep doing that around the table until that deck runs out and the player with the most money is the winner. Let me briefly go over what these special cards do. I already went over the ship. That just gives you another ship to increase your potential for payouts. This card here is called an office, and at the end of your turn, no matter what you decide to do, you always get to draw 1 extra card off of the deck. That one's very nice. This one here is called the trade agreement, and this says whenever you get paid in the game, you take 2 extra coins every time. So that one is very nice. And finally, we have the deckhand here. This says that you may exchange 1 additional goods cube during phase 1. So normally you're only allowed to trade out 1 cube. This lets you trade out 2 cubes. And those are all the special cards. So this is one of those games that seems almost too simple to be fun, but it's very interesting how you have this shifting demand of, certain goods here. And I love how you can look around the table and see what other cubes other players are collecting. And now what this will do is probably trigger a little run on the green resource, because now this player might think about swapping for another green cube, and then that player might think about swapping for another green cube. Then all of a sudden the green supply is depleted, but then you don't know what cards other players are holding on to. So maybe I'm saving up for a big payout for yellow, and I'm kind of hiding my motives a little bit. And you have to do a little card counting as well. You have to pay attention to which cards are coming out because you never reshuffle the deck. So if a lot of a certain good has been played early on, those goods cubes are probably not good investments. And you have to pay attention to that stuff. I also like the special cards because you have to pay a decent amount of money to get those. And money is all that matters. So you have to make sure you get a good return on your investment with those special cards. And there are only 2 of each of those. So in a 4-player game, you might not even get the special card that you really want. You know, this is not a must own by any stretch, but I really like how portable it is. So check that one out if it looks cool to you. And let's keep the list moving with Trails of Tucana. This is designed by two great game designers here, and this is a flip and write game. And I don't play a lot of those or roll and write games. I just don't play that many. But this is one we really enjoy because it's very portable, and it's just like a puzzle route building type of a game, but it's a very satisfying game that you could play literally anywhere. You could play this in the back seat while you're on your road trip. You could play this on the beach or at a restaurant. If you like the game Kingdom Builder, that's one of my all-time favorites. I say this is like my Kingdom Builder to go. It's a very different game still, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of Kingdom Builder. So we have our score sheets here. Everybody takes one of these and a pencil. These are double-sided, so you can play a more advanced island on the back side there. But anyway, you have to fill in these letters to set up the game. So all these islands are identical in their layout. However, each player will have a different letter arrangement because we draw a setup card here at random, and then we fill in these letters going clockwise around the island. So the start player would start with the red letter on number 1 and fill in these letters going around their island. However, the next player would put the red letter on number 2 and fill them in this order. And then the next player would put their red letter on number 3 and fill them in this order. So everyone has this order of letters going around their island, but they're all shifted slightly. And I really like that little mechanism for setting up the game slightly differently every time and to make sure that no players can copy off of each other. We also have a deck of terrain cards here, which we shuffled. And then we have these blue bonus cards at the top. These are just a little race against your opponents to link these letters together on your map. So if I am the first player to link C to C with a route, then I would get the 5 points from this card, and that card would go away. So there is a little bit of player interaction racing to get these bonus cards, but the rest of the game is very much multiplayer solitaire, scoring optimization, but it's still a very fun game. So let me show you kind of how it plays. So every turn works the same way. Someone reveals the top 2 cards. We have forest and water. And now everyone has to draw one segment linking forest to water adjacent. So maybe I go here, forest to water, like that. And then we do it again. So here we have to link rocks to rocks. Again, these have to be adjacent, but you do not have to link to a line that you've already drawn. So I could jump down here and link rock to rock, like that. Everyone does that simultaneously, and we go again. Forest to rock. So maybe I go here, forest to rock, like that, and so on. Now, you want to create routes because there's all these little scoring objectives over here, but that's the structure. You flip 2 cards, and then you have to draw a line linking those 2. Everyone does it simultaneously. So let me show you the scoring objectives. First, we have these little sites up here that you're trying to link to the villages. The villages are the letters. So, for example, with the book, if we drew a card that linked water to rocks, then maybe I would draw this line, and then, that's linked there. And then maybe we draw forest to sand, and then all of a sudden, I have my book linked to a village. As soon as you link an item to a village, you get to circle the first one worth 2 points. Now, as soon as I link another book to a village, so this book to any village, then I get to circle the other side. So let's say later, I get this linked up here. And as soon as I do that, I circle this side. So that's another 2 points, and I get to draw a free segment. And I can put that segment anywhere I want. So maybe I put it here and link this item to a village now. So now I get to circle over here. And this can create a chain reaction where you get to do all this stuff. If that was my second one of those, then I would get another free segment, and so on. So some really satisfying moments with these site points. At the end of the round, which is when this deck runs out, you add up all of these points and put your total here. You're going to get to score these again at the end of round 2. So we're going to go through this deck twice. That's the whole game. And the sites will score at the end of round 1 and round 2. You're also going to get points for linking villages together. So as soon as I link, B to B, I would circle this 13. So I would have to have a line, going all the way across here, linking somehow. And I would have B to B, and then I would circle this for 13 points. If I'm the first player to link B to B when that happens, I get this card worth another 4 points, and then no one else can take that card. I'd write a 4 there, and that bonus card would go away. That's pretty much the whole game. You're trying to, link villages to villages and items to villages, but these points and the village points only score once, whereas the sites score at the end of round 1 and round 2. Once you go through that deck 2 times, you'll have a score here, 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 and here. Add those together, put your total here, and the player with the most points is the winner. Trails of Tucana. I love this one for a route building game. It's very addictive. It's only like 15 minutes per game, and you're going to want to play just one more game of this. See if you can get a better score. The way those terrain cards come out differently every time is just enough variability to make for a very different experience, combined with those random setup cards. I also like that sprinkle of player interaction where you race to get those blue bonus cards. There's another variant in the box where you can be the first to link certain items together. So if you want a little bit more interaction, you can play with that variant. And I like that there are 2 sides to the map. If you want a little bit longer game, you can play that other side, but it plays up to 8 players. Again, very portable. You can play this in the car or on an airplane or at a restaurant, on the beach. So check this one out, especially if you like route building games. This is a solid one. All right, what else is in the game bag here? This is my makeshift party game to go box. I have 2 party games inside this old Istari box here, and I just kind of combined them to save some space. But I have Wits and Wagers, the party edition, and Snake Oil. Now, I'm not going to cover either one of those because Wits and Wagers is a very popular trivia betting game. It's probably my favorite trivia game, by the way. And then we have Snake Oil. I covered Snake Oil back on my party games episode. It's a hilarious party game, so check that episode out to learn more about Snake Oil. It's just always nice to have a couple party games on a road trip in case you have a big group and nobody wants to really think too much. These are 2 that I brought with me for this trip. Let's see what else is in here. We have, a mean trick-taking game. This is called Seas of Strife. And this is one of my favorite trick-takers right now. In fact, I'll go ahead and pull another game out called Skull King, which is another trick-taking game. These are my 2 favorite trick-takers right now. And they're both, ocean or pirate themed, so it goes along with my summer themes here. Seas of Strife is more of a gamer's game. Skull King is more of a party-ish trick-taking game. It's a little less serious, a little more chaotic, but I really like both of these. Skull King, you place bets on how many tricks you think you can win, and it has this increasing, tension because every round is worth more and more and more points. So you're never really out of the game. You feel like you can always catch up, and I really like the betting element to Skull King. Seas of Strife, like I said, is more of a gamer's game. This is very mean and interactive. The dominant suit of each trick is whichever suit showed up the most. And you can use that strategically to force other players to take tricks, because in this game, you're trying to avoid tricks. The tricks represent threats at sea, and the higher numbered cards are bigger threats. This has beautiful artwork on all the cards. Again, it goes along with my summer vibes here. And there's a variant in the deck as well, which I highly recommend. It makes the game even meaner. And the variant says when you play the highest card of a certain suit, that will cancel out the entire suit. And then you look at the next dominant suit to determine who wins the trick. This game, I'm telling you, if you like trick takers and you like mean games, check out Seas of Strife. You can check out episode 57 to learn more about Seas of Strife and some other undiscovered trick-taking games. We had a lot of fun on that members episode. But Skull King, Seas of Strife, my 2 current favorite trick takers. So those definitely made the road trip bag. Okay, what's next? How about Ransom? I just covered this back on episode 61. Not really a summer themed game, but this was a special request from one of my friends who we're going to see later in the week. He watched my video on this and he said, you have to bring Ransom. So I'm hoping we can get this played sometime this week, and it plays up to 6 players. I'm hoping that I can play my very first 6-player game of Ransom. It's a very cutthroat negotiation, bargaining type of a game. And if you like the game Chinatown, this is kind of like a Chinatown to go. So go check out episode 61, learn all about this undiscovered negotiation game. Okay, up next we have an all-time classic. This one's called Can't Stop. It's a push your luck dice game. It's very popular, so I'm not going to focus too much on this, but I do want to draw attention to this tiny box version from Plate. Plate is a company out of Korea. I've been reviewing a lot of their games over the past year or so, and I really like how they package their games. Their boxes fold out and become the game board. So a game like Can't Stop doesn't need to take up a ton of space, and I really like what they've done with this one. So you lay that part out, and then there's this other section that folds out, and it uses magnets to kind of lock everything together. And then you have all these little wooden tent pieces, which are your player markers. It's sort of a hiking up the mountain type of theme here, which works really well, especially because, you know, these stack, which is necessary for this game. So really nice aesthetics here. It's easy to see all the different player colors. I like this version because it has a beige board. This one's called Can't Stop Cyanam Peak. You know, once Plate sent me this, I was like, okay, I'm going to finally get rid of my old Parker Brothers edition and upgrade to this nice compact version that I can take on a road trip. So Can't Stop. Highly recommend this game if you like push your luck and if you like rolling dice. Okay, now just in case we want to play something a little heavier, I brought Euphrates and Tigris Contest of Kings. Again, not really a summer theme here, but this is the card game version of my current all-time favorite game, Tigris and Euphrates. If you want to learn about the card game version, you can go check out episode 29 on my YouTube. I did a full video on this, but it's a really solid card game implementation of the all-time classic Tigris and Euphrates. So I had to bring this one because, you know, that's kind of like having my all-time favorite game with me on a road trip, which is pretty cool. All right, what else is in the mystery bag? Here we have Elk Fest. I covered this back on episode 47, which was kids games. And this is a dexterity game where you flick these stones and you try to be the first to get your elk onto your opponent's platform. It doesn't require anything except some table space, so go check out episode 47 to learn all about this one. I really like this game. I kind of champion this game, and I like to bring it wherever we go. My daughter really likes this one too. Here's another one I've covered, Charte. This is a Reiner Knizia 2-player game. This is another one of those micro games. It comes in a tiny, tiny box. Go check out episode 33 on my YouTube to learn about this. This definitely goes with the summer theme here. You are putting together an old map, and it has some great aesthetics. It's like this old exploring map here. And this is one of those games we always have with us whenever we go on a road trip because it's like a little 5 to 10 minute filler game for 2. So if my wife and I are, you know, waiting on a table at a restaurant or just have a couple minutes to spare, you can get a quick little game of this in, and it's just a lot of fun. So go check out episode 33. You can see how to play Charte. All right, let's see what else is in the bag. I brought this one. This is called Valley of the Kings. Not really a summer theme either, but I wanted to have a deck builder in case my wife and I really are craving some Dominion. I did not bring any of our Dominion because those are in bigger boxes. So I brought Valley of the Kings because this is our second favorite deck building game. We do not play many deck builders. I don't particularly like a lot of deck builders other than Dominion, but this one is really good because you have multi-use cards that you have to get out of your deck in order to score them. So you're building up your deck to be able to do more, but then at some point you have to get those cards back out of your deck, which means you can't use them anymore, but that's how you get your points. Really neat little timing element to this game. A little bit more popular, a little more well-known, so I'm not going to focus on this today, and because it's not really like a summer theme, but this is my deck building game that I brought on our road trip. I like this one. Okay, what else? Here's something very undiscovered. How about this? Has anybody out there ever played Weedle? This is a Reiner Knizia game. It's a real-time negotiation game. It's like a speed game where everyone sort of barters at the same time. It's a very obscure and unknown game, and that's what this channel is all about. So I'm going to show you real quick how to play Weedle. This is a great road trip game because, as you can see, it's just a deck of cards, and it plays up to 6 people, and it goes real quick. So Weedle is just a deck of cards, and they have all these different companies in the deck. They're just basically colors when you're playing, like brown, black, orange, purple, red, etc. But they have some funny company names with a little slogan for some humor. But anyway, the number shows how many of these cards are in the deck. So there are 5 of these brown cards, and there are 9 of these black cards. The whole point of the game is you want to have a majority ownership of these companies. So you would need 3 of the 5 to be a majority owner of Fats Foods, or you would need at least, 5 out of the 9 Texas Tea Oil cards, etc. So the game lasts as many rounds as there are players. So a 4-player game, you will have 4 rounds. Every round works the same way. You start by shuffling all these cards really well. You take the top card, place it face down in the center of the table, and then you deal these evenly to all the players. So there are 60 cards left over in a 4-player game. Everyone will start with 15 cards. So deal those out. Now everybody's going to look at their hands secretly and give everybody a second to organize all their cards. I already did this for the video. You want to have all your colors together so you can see how many you have of each color. Again, you're trying to get majorities, so I would need, 2 more of these red 9s to have a majority. Now, once everybody has their cards organized, you'll flip this card and that will start the round. As soon as this card gets flipped, the chaos begins. So here we go, we're gonna flip the card. There's always gonna be 1 card in the middle. As soon as that's revealed, everyone openly starts making deals with each other. It's pure chaos, everyone's screaming. You can always swap with the card in the center of the table, and you have to keep an eye on this card. Maybe I just throw this down to get a brown 5 because the 5 is easier to get a majority in than the 7. Other players will be swapping with this card, and so on. Now, this is why the card in the middle is so critical to keep an eye on, because when the round ends, whatever card is left in the center, that company is bankrupt, and anybody holding that color will get negative points. And I love this part of the game. This absolutely makes the game. And the deals can be, irrational or whatever. Like, I'm just looking for 1 more green 7. So I'll say, I'll give somebody 3 reds for a green, or, however you want to make these deals. You can even gift cards to other players if you just want to get them out of your hand, because your whole goal is to end with majorities of these companies. The players keep doing this, making all these chaotic deals until one player stops the trading. As soon as someone says stop, everyone has to stop right then and there. Now, you're supposed to stop once you hold a majority of all the companies in your hand. So if I had this hand, I have a majority of the greens because there are 7 of the green company. I have 4 of them. There are 5 of the gray company, I have 3, and there are 7 of the purple, I have 4. So I have a majority of all the companies in my hand. If I say stop, that ends the round, and I score 5 points for ending the round legally. Now, if I had this and I did not have a majority and I said stop, then I would be penalized 5 points for ending the round without having a majority in all the companies. Now, everyone at the table gets to score some points if they're holding on to majorities. So anyone who's holding a majority of a company gets 1 point per card. However, if you have all the cards of that company, you get 2 points per card. So sometimes you don't want to end the trading right away. Even if you're holding all the majorities, you might want to try to hold out and get a total majority where you have all the cards. Because if I had all 7 of these greens, that would be 2 times 7 is 14. Whereas right now, I'm only getting 4 points for my greens. Then anyone holding the card that was left in the middle gets -1 point per card of that color. Then you reset, you just shuffle the deck and do it all again, and you play as many rounds as there are players. You keep a running tally of your points. At the end of all that, the player with the most points is the winner. So even though I wouldn't typically recommend a speed game because I don't really like them that much, I gotta say this one is fun, and leave it to Reiner Knizia to impress me with a chaotic speed game. So Weedle, definitely check that out if that looks fun to you. A very undiscovered game. Speaking of Reiner Knizia, let's look at another one. This is a pirate-themed card game called Loot. Now this one's pretty well known, so I'm not going to focus on this today. Lots of player interaction. You sort of attack each other's ships, but you have like all these different attacks happening at once that you have to keep an eye on, and you're trying to kind of sneak through some ships, because if it gets back around to you and nobody has attacked your ships, then you get to score them. It's a very neat little game, and it plays up to 8 players. So this is one we take with us all the time. It's a great game for a group. Casual in nature, you know, not super brain burning or anything, but definitely a classic Loot from Reiner Knizia. All right, the bag is getting empty, but I still have several games to get to, so let's keep this going. Next up is Fleet. Now this is the OG Fleet. There is another game called Fleet, the dice game, which I think is a little more popular than this. I really like this game, but a lot of people I play it with don't particularly enjoy it for whatever reason. I just like it because it clicks with my brain. But I'm just going to give you a very brief rundown. I just noticed this has snow-capped mountains, so probably not the most summery looking game on the front here. But a lot of the boats, you know, remind me of summer. So that's what I'm going to show you is some of the great artwork in this game, and I'll also talk briefly about it. So I really love the artwork throughout this game. It's just got a really nice aesthetic to it. These are the license cards. So at the beginning of each round, you're going to reveal some of these, and these will be put up for auction for all the players. These will show you which type of ships you're allowed to launch. So if I win this, I can launch shrimp ships. But if I win this one, I can launch lobster ships. And you'll be building up several of these licenses throughout the game. Now the licenses are cool because if you get a lot of the same license, you won't be able to launch as many different types of ships. However, you'll get an increasing special ability from those licenses. So this gives you an auction and launch bonus of some extra money that comes off your cost. So the more shrimp licenses you have, the more your discount becomes. Licenses also give you victory points, and they show the minimum cost, which is the minimum bid when they go up for auction. Like this lobster one here, the more of these you get, then it'll allow you to draw extra cards based on how many captains you have. So a lot of little building bonuses you can get from loading up on multiples of the same types of licenses. But you also want to diversify your licenses because these determine what types of ships you can launch. So again, beautiful artwork on these cards. I just love the way this game looks. So your ship cards are multi-use. We have 2 victory points. That's if you launch it as a boat. This is the cost to launch it as a boat. But then there are also some coins at the bottom, and the coins act as your money. These cards can also become captains. So if I have a ship launched, then I can play another card on top of it face down to become a captain. And the way the round works is first you do the auction for the licenses. And again, you got to pay money with these cards. If I win something for 5 money, I could pay these cards. There's 5 coins, but then those cards are spent as money. So it's very hard to get cards in this game. You have to build up your engine, which allows you to draw more cards. After the auction phase, then you move into the launch phase. Each player can launch 1 boat. So to launch this, I'd have to pay 2 coins. So I would launch, but then I have to pay 2 coins from some other card in my hand with coins on it. You're also allowed to hire 1 captain. So after a boat is launched, I can take another card and place it face down on that ship, and now that ship has a captain. You have to have a captain because in the next phase, you go fishing. Any of your boats that have a captain get to take one fish onto the boat, and the fish are just blue cubes. After you go fishing, then you can process your fish if you have a special license which allows you to process your fish. And processing your fish allows you to draw extra cards. Your points at the end are just going to be from all the cards that you have played, your licenses, your boats, and then like you get some points for unprocessed fish and things like that. But very much an engine building game where you have to be efficient with your cards, and it's not going to be an easy game to figure out on your first play. It definitely takes a few plays. In my experience, Fleet appeals more to the gamers out there, so this is not like a casual card game. This is definitely going to require some, planning and strategy, but it becomes very satisfying if you can, develop your strategy well. So give this game a couple plays. If you don't like it right away, I think it will grow on you with more plays. Okay, let's keep going. I can't believe I haven't done a Stefan Dora game yet. Here's one. This is called Buccaneer. This is a light and casual pirate-themed game, perfect for summer with all the boats and pirates and stuff. And I really like this for a beer drinking game. You don't have to think much. You can drink a beer and play Buccaneer. That has a nice ring to it. Let me show you briefly how this plays. It's very simple. Okay, we're all set up for a 4-player game. Everybody starts with their pirate discs in their player color. Everyone gets a 2, 3, 4, 5, and question mark pirate. Then we have this deck of ship cards. We shuffle this and we flip the top 3 into the center of the table. We also have the loot tiles organized by type, and then we have a money supply. So these ship cards show some important information. First of all, at the top left is a number. This is a payout, so whenever we raid this ship, we split this payout between all the players who raided the ship. So this one pays out 9, this one pays out 16, and this one pays 22. This number here shows how big the stack of pirates has to be able to board that ship. So you only need 3 pirates in a stack to board this ship, but you need at least 5 pirates to board this ship. The top right shows the loot tile you will collect. The captain gets first choice of the loot tile, and the first mate gets the leftover loot tile if there is one. So on this, only the captain will get a loot tile. But this one, the captain would choose which one they want, and the first mate gets the other. You're going to be getting money in-game from these payouts, but you also have money at the end of the game for getting majorities in these loot tiles. So if you have the most treasure chests at the end, you're going to get 15 money, whereas the most daggers only gets you 6 money. So there's some end game scoring to go for and in-game payouts. The player with the most money at the end wins. We're going to keep playing through this entire ship deck, and once this deck is gone, the game will end. Now, you do not replenish the supply of ships until all 3 of these ships get boarded. Once all 3 of these get boarded, then we flip 3 new ones. So here's how your turn works. You just go clockwise around the table, and you can either move a pirate or board a ship. That's it. So moving a pirate means you take one of your pirates or pirate stack where you're the captain, meaning you are on top of the stack, and you take another player's pirate stack into your own possession. So let me show you a couple rounds here how this might play out. Maybe I start my turn by moving a pirate, and I will claim this guy. So you stack it and bring it back to your supply like that. Then this player goes. Maybe they want to take that right back. So they might go and take that back with that guy. Then this player goes. Maybe they start a new stack and they take one of the red pirates like that. And then maybe the red player decides to take this stack over here. Then maybe it's back to me and I decide to start a new stack here. Then maybe this player decides to claim this one. And then maybe this player decides to take this stack that I started for themselves, like that. And then maybe this red player decides to finally board a ship. So again, you either board a ship or move a pirate. So let's say the red player wants to board this middle ship. Again, you have to have 4 pirates in your stack, which they do, and they could board this ship. They could also board this ship instead, but they're going to go for this. Here's how you do the payouts. So first, the captain gets first choice of one of these loot tiles. So let's say the red player wants to go for the barrels because those are worth more points if they can have the most barrels. So the red player takes that, and that means the second player in the stack, which is yellow, gets the other loot tile. So yellow player gets a dagger. Now we have to split this money. We have 16 money to split out. So you put the captain off to the side, then all these players get paid based on their numbers. So there is 16 money to pay out, which means 9 of it goes to the yellow player, 5 of it goes to the black player, and the leftover goes to the captain. Now let's say we had boarded this ship instead. Here there's not enough money to pay everyone. This player deserves 9, this player deserves 5. That's 14. So 9 of it comes from the bank. The remainder comes from the red player's personal money supply. So the captain has to cover any money that can't be paid to these players. So you have to be careful which ships you board. There's a little bit of a memory element trying to remember which pirates are in which stacks because you're not allowed to look through the stacks. But it gets pretty complicated when you have multiple pirate stacks going around the table. It's pretty hard to remember that. Anyway, that's how the payouts work. Then these pieces just go back to their owners, and then the ship card gets removed from the game. So this ship is gone, and again, you do not replenish this supply until all these ships are boarded. Once you have boarded these, then we flip 3 new ships, and the game ends when all the ships get boarded. And one more quick thing to note, this confused me back when I first learned the game. But if you board a ship and you are the captain and you have other discs in the stack, those all come out. So none of your discs get paid. You're just considered the captain. You get the remainder of whatever is left. So if the black player gets 9, even though you had another disc in that stack, you don't get anything. Black gets all 9, you get nothing. A couple other little twists in the game. First of all are the question marks. So each card has a question mark. That just shows how much the question mark disc is worth if it's in that pirate stack. So for example, if these players had boarded the ship, anybody with a question mark is like having a 4 there. So the red player would get 7 money and the black player would get 4 money. So that changes from ship to ship. You have to keep an eye on that. Another thing to note is a pirate stack can never have more than 9 discs. So that stack there has 9, that's maxed out. It cannot take any more pirates. Another thing to note is if you have at least 3 of your discs in an opponent's stack. So if I was the red player, I have 3 of my discs. This is the yellow player's stack right now. I can force the yellow player to board a ship on their turn. Now they get to decide what ship to board. But if it's yellow's turn and I'm the red player, I can say, yellow, you have to board a ship. You cannot take more pirates. And those are just a couple other rules to spice up the game, but that's pretty much it. At the end of the game, you'll total all your money. The players who have the majorities of these loot tiles will get that much money. And then if you have any loot tiles that did not score you majorities, you get $1 for each of those. And that's all the scoring. The player with the most money is the winner. So again, the king of hidden gems, Stefan Dora, does it again. This one is very light and simple. I love how quick it plays. The turns are so snappy here. It's just take a pirate, take a pirate, take a pirate. Oh, board a ship. Now we have to split out the money. That takes a couple seconds. But just because it's simple does not mean that it's devoid of strategy. There's a lot of cool stuff to consider in this game. And it's very satisfying when you can pull off a perfect turn and let those cards clear out and then some new ship cards come up. Sometimes you'll hit it just right where you can board right away and get a huge payout as the captain. You know, that big remainder is very satisfying. A lot of other times you can sneak your bigger discs into stacks, let them sit for a little bit, and then other players will forget where they are. There is a memory element to this, which I don't typically like in a board game, but here it's a little more enjoyable in this setting. So again, a very casual game, one that I like to sit back, drink a beer, and play Buccaneer. That's going to be my new slogan for this game. So check this one out for sure. It's an awesome little filler game. Okay, we've opened up the Stefan floodgates here. I have Sardinia and Tonga Bonga. Both Stefan bangers and both published by Plate. Again, they use their fold-out box here where the box becomes the game board. You can check out my other YouTube episodes to learn about these games. Tonga Bonga is from episode 49. I did a full tutorial and review of this. It's a dice placement game where you race your ships around trying to be the first to get to these islands. But it uses this neat little system where you put out some money and try to entice the other players to give you their best dice. Great little interactive racing game here. And then I covered Sardinia twice on my channel. First as Creta, which was the original version. I did that way back on episode 14. And then it was reprinted by Plate as Sardinia. And I covered this on episode 45. So you can go check those episodes out. And this is in my top 10 games of all time. It's my favorite area majority game right now. And I just cannot get enough of this one. Sardinia, Creta, whichever version you go with, it's awesome. And now that I have this portable version, I don't go anywhere without this. And we might as well complete the trio here with another little blue plate game. This one's called Cash a Catch, another reprint of an older game. I love how this looks on my shelf, by the way, with Sardinia and Tonga Bonga. They all go very nicely together. Again, summer vibes here, and this one has a fishing theme, and it's a real-time auction game where you reveal some cards, and the first person to slap the bell gets the cards, and they get to purchase them. But there's a neat little interaction that exists. Let me show you briefly how this one plays. We're set up for 4 players here. You put the bell in the middle of the table where everyone can reach it. Everyone starts with 30 money. Money supply is up here, and then you have a shuffled deck of seafood cards here. You have to do a little preparation of the deck to set up the game. I won't get into that today. Everyone starts with a player board. Your player board has 3 slots where you store cards. You have 2 regular boxes and 1 ice box, and then you have a trash bin over here. Any cards in the trash bin at the end of the game will be negative points. When you store your cards in your boxes, you can only store cards of the same type. So we have all these different seafood cards in the deck of varying values. And say I store tuna here, then I can only store tuna cards in that box until I sell them or discard them. So that's kind of how the storage works on your player board. So each round, there's one auctioneer who reveals cards, and the other players will ring the bell when they want to purchase those cards. The auctioneer rotates clockwise each round. So the auctioneer's job is very simple. They reveal one card at a time, and then the other players can ring in at any time. So let's say I start flipping cards. Now, any of these 3 players could ring the bell as soon as they want to purchase all of these cards. You have to buy all the cards if you ring the bell. Let's say this player rings the bell right there. Whenever you ring the bell, it's always a flat $10 to buy all of these cards. So this player has to pay $10 to the bank. Now the auctioneer gets to take $1 per card revealed. So the longer the players wait to ring the bell, the more money the auctioneer collects. And I really like that rule in the game. So I would get $4 right now from the bank. This player must take every one of these cards and assign it to an area of their player board there. So maybe they want to store the purple over here in the ice box. Maybe they store the blue here. Maybe they store the yellow here. And then the green will have to go into the trash bin for a negative point at the end. And that would be the end of the round. Then the auctioneer would pass to the next player, and they would do the same thing. Now let me talk about selling seafood cards. Only the auctioneer is allowed to sell their cards, and they have to decide before the auction if they'd like to sell. And this is where the game can get quite mean. So let's say it got all the way around to me again. Everybody has some cards saved up, and I'm the auctioneer. Before I start flipping cards, I might say, I want to sell all my purple cards here. So I'm going to sell these. Now here's how the selling works. I do have a wild in here. These wilds can be any type, so you just have to commit them to one of your boxes when you collect a wild. But here you total up all your cards. So here I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you sell cards, you have to sell all of them of that type. So I have 7. I look on the chart at the number 7. That is worth 15 euro in a payout. You just look at this middle chart during the game. If you have any cards left over at the end of the game, you get to sell them for half the cost, which is showing over here. So just look at the middle. These go away. Now, when you sell, everyone else has to lose their highest card of this color. So this player over here has to lose their 3 card, and that goes into their trash bin. So not only are they losing it, but they're taking a negative point for the end of the game. It's brutal. This game can be very punishing. Now this player has a purple card, but notice it's stored in the ice box. So that card is protected because it's in the ice box. So no one else would have to lose a card. And then I would start the auction. So I'd start revealing cards just like we did before. There are also some special cards that spice up the game. If you win the Fish Thief in an auction, you get to steal another player's most recently played card. And if you win the Canned Fish, you get to go through your trash bin and get rid of 2 of those cards. So that saves you from losing some points. So you just keep going around the table like that. Eventually you'll hit the end game cards somewhere near the bottom of the deck, and that will end the game immediately. At that point, everyone can sell all their unsold cards, but you only get half the price for them. And then you total up your money. The player with the most money wins. Now this game is very brutal and very punishing. There's a lot of times where I end the game with no money at all. It's just a very difficult game because you have to take negative points for all those cards that are in your trash bin. So it's just a difficult game to get anywhere. And I think that starting with 30 money is very limiting here because anytime you buy cards at the auction, you're paying $10. I do like the auction system though. I like how the auctioneer gets paid $1 per card. And that prevents players from letting it go too far. You know, you're always thinking, I don't want the auctioneer to get a bunch of free money. I better ring the bell now. And, you know, you have to put aside your analysis paralysis here. You know, think long, think wrong. That's the name of this game. So if you like chaos and punishing games, this one's a lot of fun in that aspect. The more players, the more chaos. That's Cash a Catch. Definitely a wild game. And one that I think is kind of fun, even though it's not my favorite. Okay, we have some more Reiner Knizia. This is Lost Cities Rivals. This is the spin-off game of the very popular 2-player game just called Lost Cities. This one is called Lost Cities Rivals, and it's for 2 to 4 players. It uses the same format of needing to organize your cards from lowest to highest. You have the different expeditions. And in this game, however, the way you get those cards is through an auction format. It's a very standard round-the-table auction where you either raise the bid or pass. Highest bidder pays their money and takes all the cards. On your turn, you're either going to reveal a card and add it to the increasing pool of cards, or you're going to start an auction for all the cards that have been revealed so far. It's much like the game Raw, if you've ever played that, where you either draw a tile or start an auction. Really solid and safe auction game to put on the table. The reason I have it is because I didn't want to lug Raw with me because that box is much bigger. So this has a similar mechanism to Raw. This one is kind of my replacement while I'm on the road. My biggest gripe with this game is I don't feel like it does anything super unique. I love bidding games, but I like bidding games that do some different things that we've never seen before. So if I had to have a complaint about this, I would say it's just a very standard auction game. However, what it does very well, and I've had a lot of luck showing this to players who don't play a lot of auction games. So that's why I bring this along. It kind of has that exploration, summery look to it, so I thought it would be a good one to throw in the bag. But other than that, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this today. I did a written review a long time ago on my Instagram. So if you scroll through my IG a long time ago, probably like 3 or 4 years ago, you can find my written post about this game and read more of my thoughts. That's Lost Cities Rivals. Okay, I have one final Stefan Dora game. This is called A Sheep in the Sea, otherwise known as Turn the Tide. This is a pretty popular little card game, kind of has a little cult following around it. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. It's very light and simple. It's just like a numbers-based game. But in this printing, you're trying to save your sheep from, I guess, drowning in the sea. I don't know. I'm going to show you briefly how it plays if you've never played this. Just while I'm showing you some of the cards, I will talk about it. But you have your sheep cards here. The higher numbers, I guess, mean that they're, in more danger. So like the low numbers, they're on the land. They're starting to, venture out into the ocean. And then by the time you get up to these high numbers, they are in trouble. So you don't want the high numbered sheep cards, but the artwork is really cute on these. Then everybody is going to have a hand of numbered cards, and these are your weather cards. So these are numbered. They go really high in the deck, as you can see, but everybody has a hand of these dealt randomly. At the beginning of the round, you're going to flip over 2 random sheep cards like this into the center of the table. Now everybody simultaneously submits 1 card from their hand secretly into the middle. It's sort of like a blind bid in a way. Then you reveal everyone's weather card. Whoever submitted the highest card takes the lower of the sheep cards. Then the second highest bid has to take this card. The rest of the bids get nothing, and that's sometimes a good thing. These sheep cards go onto a point stack, which remains visible to all the players, and at this point, everyone looks to see who has the highest sheep card. That player has to flip over one of their life preservers, which is just like a point tracker. You want to flip over the fewest amount of life preservers. So everybody has a row of these life preservers, and then at the end of each round, whoever has the highest sheep has to flip one. And then you just keep doing that. You draw 2 more sheep cards, everyone submits a blind bid, highest bid takes the lowest card, second highest bid takes the highest card. So a lot of the game is trying to avoid being the second highest bid, which is very tricky. It's ultimately a guess, but it is an educated guess if you pay attention, and you can kind of gauge, based on which sheep cards come out and things like that. Now that alone would be a clever little game. However, this is Stefan Dora. He likes to throw in a little twist every now and again. And in this game, the big twist is that after you play through all your weather cards, then you pass your hand to your neighbor. And now you have to play the same game with your neighbor's hand. And the game doesn't end until every player has played everyone else's hand of cards. Now, it's still a guessing type of a game, so there's a lot of luck involved here, but it's a very neat little game. It's addictive, and this is one I will happily play anytime. It's had a lot of different titles and a lot of reprints over the years. Turn the Tide by Stefan Dora. All right, we're getting close. I have my final plate game here. This is called Digit Code. This is a deduction game. When I describe this game to other people, I say it's kind of like a mashup between Battleship and Guess Who, but more for gamers. It's a lot more crunchy than those classics that we grew up playing. I don't play a lot of, deduction games, but this one here I really do enjoy because of how portable and quick it is. It's a little filler game. I really like it at 2 players because at 2 players, you each create your own secret 6-digit code, and then you take turns asking each other questions and trying to be the first to solve the code. So a very simple format here, but it has these really neat score sheets that help you with your guessing and your deduction. It comes with these player screens which have a helpful reminder on the back of the questions that you're allowed to ask. But once you get familiar with the game, you really don't absolutely need these. They do help hide your score pad a little bit. But I'm just saying, this game could be played literally anywhere that you can sit down and, take notes. Because all you need is this piece of paper. The way this works is really clever. They have taken the digital format of numbers and transformed it into a grid that you can ask questions about. And it's all about which segments of the numbers are filled in. That's how you can, figure out the code. When you make your code, you're not allowed to have any 2 digits adjacent that are the same number, and you can never have the same number appear in your code more than twice. Okay, so I've created my code. It's 872184. That is legal. I have, no more than 2 of the same number, and no 2 of the same number are adjacent, up, down, or left, right. So my opponent is going to be trying to guess this code. Meanwhile, I'm going to try to guess my opponent's code, and I will take notes down in this section. You have to understand how this is laid out. It's a little bit tricky to see it at first, but once it clicks, it makes perfect sense. You have to think of these digits as a grid, and the grids have letters. So A refers to this column of vertical white lines. A is white, and that refers to the white lines below it. B is gray. That refers to the gray lines below it going horizontal. C is white. It refers to the vertical white lines going straight down. The same applies to these rows. So row J refers to these horizontal gray lines going all the way across. Row K refers to these vertical white lines going all the way across. So that's how you have to think of that grid. Also, each digit of the code is lettered T, U, V, W, X, Y. This is all important because you can only ask 4 types of questions, and you only can ask 1 question at a time. Here are the questions you can ask when it's your turn. First of all, you can say, how many spaces in a certain column or row are filled in? So let's say I ask, how many spaces in row L are filled in? And my opponent says 2. So I'm looking across here, okay? So 2 of these 3 are filled in. So I would write a number 2 right there like that. And that reminds me of what's going on in that row. And then my opponent asks me a question, and it comes back to me. Another type of question you can ask is simply, is a number even or odd? And this is where the T, U, V, W, X, Y. So you can ask about a specific digit. So maybe I want to know, is the U even or odd? And if they say even, I would circle these 2 dots because that signifies even. Then I can immediately cross off all of the odd numbers over here. So you're going to be narrowing this down. This chart up here serves to help you visualize where certain spaces are filled in. So like I said, I know that 2 of these 3 lines will be filled. I have to look at the numbers, what numbers could possibly be here. Another type of question you can ask is greater than or less than. So you pick any 2 adjacent digits, either vertically or horizontally, and ask. So maybe I say, is T greater than or less than U? And they say it's greater than. So then I just mark that like that. And again, you can go with the vertical ones too. So maybe I ask, is U greater than or less than X? They would answer, they say U is less than X, and it's less than T. I know it's even. I know that 2 of these lines are filled in. So maybe I want to ask another question. The 4th possibility for a question is a specific intersection, and you can ask if that is filled in. So maybe I really want to know about where L meets E. So again, it's a grid, and the intersection is here. So I ask my opponent, is LE filled in? If they say no, all of a sudden, I have my answer here. Let's say my opponent says no. Now 2 of these are filled in. That's not. So now I can immediately start filling in these. Furthermore, I know that this is less than this number, and this is less than this number, and it's even. So now I can look at this chart and look at all the even numbers that could be less than anything else and not have anything in the middle. 0 is the only one that does not have a line going through the middle of it. So immediately I know that this digit has to be 0. So I can fill it in confidently and then cross all those out. So now I know their middle number here is 0. This has to have a line on the middle. So I could cross off, 1, 0, and 7. So it can't be those. And the same over here. It can't be 1, 0, or 7. So you just keep doing this, and the whole time you're just probing for one question that just sets off a chain reaction where you can mark off a ton of stuff. And it's so satisfying when you can find that one powerful question that helps you, solve the code or get a little leg up on your opponent. Again, they're going to be asking you a question. You go back and forth, asking one question at a time. Again, either a row or a column, how many spaces are filled in, greater than or less than, is a number odd or even, or a specific intersection, is that filled in? Those are your 4 options. At the end, when you think you have their code solved, you have to use your turn to make a guess. You are allowed 2 incorrect guesses. So if your first guess is wrong, you just continue the game. But then if you guess again and you're wrong, you immediately lose. However, if you guess it correctly and you went first in the game, then your opponent has a chance to also guess it correctly. And if that happens, they tie you. But if they can't guess it, then you would win. And that's how you play digit code. I'll show you again. The back of these player screens have a visual reminder of your 4 questions you can ask, as well as the layout of the numbers. So that's very helpful. I do like playing with these screens, like when we play on the couch and stuff. It does kind of help keep your notepads hidden. Another thing I didn't mention is you can play this game with more players than 2, but you have to basically have a code maker, and then everybody else at the table tries to crack that code. I don't know. It's just not the same, because what I like, when you're at 2 players, it's that race of trying to crack each other's code the fastest. That is where this game shines, in my opinion. So really portable, definitely a road trip game. Digit code, if that looks fun to you, definitely check this out. This is a new release from Plate. All right, we're getting close. What's this? My daughter snuck this one in here. This is Gree the dice game. I didn't think I brought this because I brought Can't Stop, which was kind of my push your luck dice game. But my daughter loves this game called Gree. It's just 6 dice. It's super simple, but this is a really fun little dice game. And she put this in here, so I'm going to go ahead and show you real quick. Here is Gree in a nutshell. You have 6 dice. They have these faces, $, G, R, 2 different color E's, and a D. All the dice are the same. You're trying to be the first player to hit 5,000 points. You can keep score on a piece of paper. On your turn, you're going to roll all 6 dice. Now you get to keep any dice that score according to this chart. The key is they have to be rolled on a single roll. So if I wanted the 3 red R's, I can't hold one of those R's in hopes of rolling 2 more. You have to roll all 3 red R's on a single roll. So I can't hold the R back. I can only hold back combinations on this chart. So here I could hold back the single D's for 100 points each and the single G for 50 points. Whatever I hold back, I can roll the rest, or I can bank those points. Say I keep going. Now I rolled a G, a $, and an R. Only thing I can hold back is the single G. That's another 50 points, so I could keep going or I could stop. Let's say I roll again. I rolled 2 E's. That is a bust. So I would lose all these points, and then it would be the next player's turn. Now, let's say, for example, that I had rolled 2 more D's like this on that last roll. Now, these are separate from these 2. So that is not a set of 4 D's. Again, that has to come from one roll. But that's 4 individual D's down here for 400 and 2 G's for another 100. Now, since I used all 6 dice, I keep going. So I roll again. And now I got 3 E's. That's another 300 to add to my score. And I could hold back those 2 individual G's if I wanted to. And then I would be stuck rolling this. Now, if I just roll the 1, I have to get a D or a G. Otherwise, it's a bust. But I could put those in there for better odds. So maybe I re-roll these, see what I get. And I got a G, so I could keep going if I wanted to, or I could stop. I think it would be wise to stop there. So you just keep going until you decide to stop or until you bust, and then you mark your score. Very standard stuff. The only difference here is you have to roll these combinations on that single roll, and that makes it a little tricky. For example, the only way to get this 1,000 points is to roll the $, the G, the R, both colors of E and D on a single roll. And what's crazy is my daughter gets that a ton. She's so lucky with this game. Now, I have not seen the 6 of a kind, which is basically an instant win of 5,000 points. I have not seen that happen, but I've seen this Gree rolled many times. So big shout out to my daughter for sneaking this into the game bag. I'm really glad she did, actually, because I've been wanting to review this for a while. It's a classic in our house. We play this all the time, and it's just so portable, so quick and simple to learn, but it really is a fun push your luck dice game, and I just never really knew when to review it. So here we are. This was the perfect time. A definite road trip game, Greed. We're getting very close. I see some super undiscovered stuff left in this bag though, so stick with me. We're almost finished. First, we're going to look at this Reiner Knizia game called Reif für die Insel. This was recommended to me recently by several channel members. So the UG OGs have spoken, and I definitely took you up on your recommendations. And this is a Reiner Knizia game that was released just a few years ago. It looks like a kid's game, but don't be fooled. This one is a very mean little bidding game that I am really loving right now. Let me show you real quick what this one's all about. It's got the island theme, which is great for summer. You're going to be monkeys collecting bananas on an island. What's not to love about that? Let's go check it out real quick. Each player gets a deck of cards in their color, and all the players have the same, assortment of numbers here. And then you have a bag filled with all these banana tokens here, and then each player gets a player mat. The whole point of the game is you're trying to fill up your player mat with the best scoring bananas. But the game lasts 3 rounds. So after round 1, you can only eat your brown bananas. After round 2, you can eat brown and yellow bananas. And then after round 3, you can eat brown, yellow, and green bananas. So you have to wait for the green ones to become ripe. So if you get green bananas early, you're going to be waiting and they're going to clog up your board till the end of the game. And that's a neat little mechanism there, and it's kind of thematic as well. So the game lasts 3 seasons. Each season has several skirmishes, which are just little auctions for the bananas. So at the beginning of a skirmish, you're going to draw out bananas equal to the number of players. So in a 4-player game, we'll draw 4 bananas, one at a time, however, because there are some special bananas in the bag. So we have a yellow 10. We have a green 11. We have a parrot. Now, whenever you draw a parrot, it goes on the next space where you would be putting the next banana. So the next banana you draw is going to go above that parrot. So now we have a yellow 5 with a green parrot. And finally, we have a black -7. So these are the bananas that we're going to be sort of bidding on with our cards. If you've ever played Amun-Re by Reiner Knizia, this uses a very similar auction system where on your turn, you're going to play a card to one of these bananas that you want to take. If there's already a card there, you have to play a higher numbered card. If there's no card there, you can play whatever you want. These cards have to last you the entire game. The only card you get to return to your hand is your 0 card. The rest of the cards, once you spend them, they're gone. So let's show you how this might play out. Let's say I place my 7 card here under the yellow 10, and then the next player goes. Let's say they place their 1 card here under the 11. Let's say the next player plays a 3 onto the 11. Then this player gets their 1 card back, and it goes to the next player. Let's say they play their 1 card here. Then it comes back to me. Now, I already have a card out, so I do nothing here until somebody kicks me out. So now it goes back to the orange player. And let's say the orange player decides to go up on this one and knock the yellow player out like that. Now the yellow player has to decide what to do. So maybe the yellow player really doesn't want to take that -7, but somebody's going to take it. So let's see what happens here. The yellow player decides to outbid green for this 11 with their 7. So green gets booted. And now green decides what to do. So you just keep doing this until it all shakes out. So a 6 on this one. And now orange has to decide what to do. Maybe orange decides, I don't really want to take that big -7 there. So I'll just go ahead and spend my 10 and knock out the red player. Now it goes back to me, the red player. So I have to decide what I want to do. Do I really want to spend my 10 already? Or do I just bite the bullet and take that -7 and save my card? So maybe that's what I do. I put my 0 there, knowing that I'll get that card back. So whoever played the final card becomes the start player for the next round. So I get this card. And now you just give these bananas to the players. When you take a parrot, the parrot goes onto your island up here, and then at the end of the round, the parrot is going to steal a banana of that color. So a green banana will be stolen by this parrot. So parrots are bad, but they have to be taken with the banana they're paired with. So this player has to take the yellow 5 and the green parrot. So whenever you take a banana onto your island, you have to have a space here to put it. If you don't have space, you have to either discard the banana you took or discard one of these bananas. So in this case, I have to take the black banana like that. Everybody else puts their bananas on their islands, and then any 0 cards that were played get returned to the players. So I get my 0 card back. All these other numbers are gone forever. So these go out of the game. And then you start another skirmish by drawing more bananas out of the bag. So you draw them. Let's say you draw a thunderstorm tile. That goes at the top, and that signifies a lightning round. Talk about that in a moment. There's also some special ones. This says 15-2. That means you have to have 2 of these, but if you do, you score 15 points. But one of them is worthless. And if you have the thunderstorm tile drawn, that's a lightning round. That just means everybody submits their bid face down. So everybody just chooses one card, puts it face down, and then you reveal them simultaneously. The highest bid gets first choice of the tiles, and so on down the line. If there's a tie, you break the tie in turn order from the start player. So let's say at the end of the first season, my board looked like this. First, the parrot would have to eat my green banana. If I had multiple greens, I get to choose which one the parrot eats. So this is gone. Now I can only eat my brown bananas after the first season. So these go into my point stack. Now this 15-2 is still okay because I just need to get another one by the end of the game for that to activate. So I can still hope for another one of those. And then this black one has to go into my point stack as well. The yellow one stays. At the end of season 2, I'll be able to eat the yellow one. Unless, of course, I get a pesky yellow parrot that decides to eat it. So that is how you score. Then you go into season 2 and season 3. And at the end of season 3, whoever has the most points is the winner. It's also worth noting that any unused monkey cards that are still in your hand at the end of the game get their points added to your score as well. So if you still had these at the end of the game, you'd get an additional 12 points in addition to your banana stack. Thanks again to the UGOGs for recommending this. This game is mean, it's cutthroat, it's just awesome. I really, really like this one. The box is way too big. I mean, look how minimal the components are compared to the box size. Take out that rule book, and you can see there's just not much to this game. So I'm going to condense this into another game box when I get home, but for now it's going to clog up some space in my game bag, but that's just fine because this is a banger of a game. Check this one out for sure. It's kind of hard to find, but I definitely recommend it. All right, we've arrived at the big reveal. This is where I share how many games were in this bag. There are 2 left, which means the correct answer was 34. 34 games in this one little bag. So when I took on this challenge, I never dreamed I would come close to the 30s. I thought I would be lucky to get 20 in there. But once I started putting in these small boxes, I was like, wow, I'm really going to fit a lot of games. And I got to say, I almost fit 40 when I initially packed it. I was at 39 and I could not fit another thing in there. And I was like, this is packed way too tightly. So I just took some out so I could reach in. So there was actually a little bit of room to spare in this bag. And that just blew my mind. I've never really, put it to the test and see how many games I can fit in here. But it was a fun little challenge, and I brought over 30 for a little 14-day road trip. So no, I don't need this many games with me. No, we're not going to get to play all of these. But I will say it's pretty cool to know that I have 34 awesome games right here at my fingertips wherever I go, and they hardly take up any space. So that's pretty neat. Again, I apologize for all the rough cuts and the bad sound quality. I don't have my normal recording gear with me, but I just really thought this would be a fun episode to put together to give you a ton of games to check out while you wait for my next episode, because I'm going to be a little longer than usual posting episode 68. So this will give you a big list of things to check out in the meantime, and then I'll be back with my normal, quality on episode 68. Okay, the final two games in the game bag. These kind of go together. One is a re-implementation of the other. I don't know if I'm pronouncing these correctly. We have Meuterer and Verräter. It's Mutineer and Traitor. I've only played Mutineer so far, and my first impressions are very strong, and that's why I tracked down a copy of this game, because I thought it would be fun to make a full video episode comparing both of these. I'll do a side-by-side comparison and show you the differences and similarities between these games. But I cannot speak to that right now because I have not played this version, and my goal on this road trip is to get a group together, teach them this because I know how to play this, and then right afterwards play a game of this. And then I'll log a few more plays over the next few weeks and come back with a full episode showing both of these. So that's one of many little episodes in the works. That's just a little teaser for you on an upcoming video to look out for. I'm running out of time here, so I'm going to give you a very brief overview of this game just to whet your appetite a little bit, and then I will be back with a full episode on this and Traitor. So in Mutineer, you'll have this circle of cards in the middle of the table, and those are different ports that the ship can travel to. The ship travels in a clockwise path around the ports, and there is one captain who kind of has control of the ship. At the beginning of the round, the captain offers up some victory points to the other players in exchange for help defending his ship against this incoming mutiny that's bound to happen. But before you do that, you go around the table and play cards one at a time, trying to sell goods to these ports. You're trying to get a majority of goods sold at the active ports. The ports shift based on where the boat is. So the players have to decide if they want to play a card to stay in the round or pass and take a roll from the middle. There are hidden rolls in the middle, and as soon as you pass, you're out of that, goods phase, but then you get first choice of a special roll. The rolls will either help overthrow the captain or will help defend the captain, or there are a couple neutral rolls in there as well. But it's a roll selection game with that retreat mechanism, which I love so much from games like Condottiere or the other one I just covered, Hekmek am Kartenek, where you have to decide when the right moment is to pass or when to stay in the round to try to get more points. So I really like that in the game. And then after you do that, you actually have the mutiny where the mutineer tries to overthrow the captain. And you play these sword cards back and forth. And if the mutiny is successful, then that player becomes the new captain. If not, then the captain remains the captain. So whoever starts the game as the captain could remain the captain the entire game, potentially, if there's no successful mutinies. I did have a few issues with it, which I'll discuss in my video, but I definitely want to log a few more plays before I make a video. And just like that, I ran out of space for more video on my phone. I was going to do a little closing thing there, but I have, pushed my phone to the max, editing this on the go here. So thanks for watching this episode. Thanks for sticking with me through all those road trip games. And this was a really fun one to make, but I will be back with my normal quality content on episode 68. Like I said, it will be a little bit longer than usual posting that. So hopefully this video will hold you over until episode 68. And of all the games I covered today, I would love to know which ones are you most excited to try and why? And have you played any of these? Which ones are your favorite? Let me know all that stuff in the comments below. I love to read all your comments regularly, so keep them coming. If you want to see all the links to the videos I referenced in this episode, I will post those in the video description below, along with all the channel membership info if you're interested in joining the channel to become a UGOG and vote on future episodes and get members-only episodes and ultimately help keep this channel alive. All that info is in the video description. Thanks so much for checking that out. And if you don't want to be a member yet, that's totally fine. Just click subscribe right here on YouTube at undiscovered_games and see if you can get some of your board gaming friends to subscribe as well. As long as my subscribers go up, I will keep this content coming on a regular basis. Thanks again, everybody, for being here. I really appreciate all of you for watching this, and I'll see you right back here in about 4 weeks or so for episode 68.